Hello, welcome back to the Claim Your Awesome podcast. Whether you are listening via podcast or listening to this on YouTube, it is so lovely, as always, to be with you. And I truly appreciate you being here. I want to quickly share a story that I just recorded this podcast without my mic on. So, yes, I had a 30-minute video lined up, ready to go. And went to edit it and I hadn't turned my mic on. Um, so here we go again, round two. The really wonderful thing is that I typically rarely write down what the episode is going to be about. I mean, I have an idea of what the episode is going to be about, but I don't script it all out prior to being here. So it might have a little bit of a different flavor than what I just recorded, but we're going to just trust that whatever wants to flow through is exactly what is meant to be here and what's meant to come up. And yes, I was debating recording again, but I'm already here. I'm already sitting down. I have makeup on, which I don't typically wear every single day. So we're back and we're just going, we're just going ahead and doing the thing. And if anything, like, please use this as a lesson for yourself, an invitation to know that, things aren't always seamless and perfect, but we still take action. We still just have a crap ton of fun. We trust the process. And for me, that's really the best way to go through life. So, all right, let's dive into this episode again. And I have really been reflecting on life lately, really in the sense of what actually is in our control. There are people who believe that there is actually no such thing as free will. There are people who believe that life is completely laid out and designed for us. And we are here basically just living, right, that design, right? That we have no control over that. And I have some friends who are going through some really heavy things right now in their own lives. And it's made me think about this a lot. Like, what is it that, you know, makes certain people have to go through loss or grief or suffering or pain or heartache, whatever it may be? And others seem to go through life without that or without the intensity of that. And it's really interesting to ponder on and reflect on. And for me, as a manifestation coach, where I believe that we have the power to create the reality that we want for ourselves, it's an interesting thing to reflect on, right? Are we actually really in control of what we want to experience in this life? And, some days it can feel really heavy for me, right? Like, is it all worth it? I don't know, right? But I do believe, based on my own life experiences, based on things that I have wanted and things that I've wanted to manifest, and my ability to do that, and supporting other women to do the same, I believe that life is going to throw situations and circumstances and things at us that maybe are so horrible in the moment that maybe we would never wish on ourselves or our worst enemy, but ultimately it's there to help us grow and expand. That ultimately that is our purpose in this lifetime. As a soul, at a soul level, we are here to grow and expand and step into our highest potential in whatever way that looks like. And maybe we are not completely in control of what that looks like. And sometimes that is the beauty of it all, right? Letting go of that control and just allowing whatever your highest self wants, just letting that come to fruition, right? Because what feels really heavy and hard is when we try to control, when we try to control exactly how life shows up for us, because it never works out, right? We all know the saying, life is what happens, more busy making plans, right? It doesn't always work that way. However, there are things that we can do along the way through this process in order to make this be a lot more easy, right? Let this be a lot more fun and really use it to our advantage to experience whatever it is that we want to experience in this lifetime. And I'm sure you can relate to, stories like this, but I think back to, you know, maybe boyfriends that I had and I'm like, thank God it didn't work out with them, right? Like where my life would look so different and where would I be today? And again, I do wonder how much of that was me actually deciding, right? Like, I met my husband, I think I was 25. So we were young. I definitely didn't have this level of awareness. I definitely, probably a little bit, I wanted to meet a good person and I had an idea of what I wanted my life to look like. But, you know, in college or other breakups, I mean, I don't know, how deeply rooted was I in those moments to say, this person is ultimately not going to allow me to live a life that I truly love, right? Or was it simply divine intervention, right? Not allowing that relationship to work. And again, now with the power of hindsight, I'm so thankful that things worked out the way that they did. And sometimes it is simply that reflection, simply reflecting back on times in our life where we thought we failed and we see the blessing in it, right? Times in our life where we thought in that moment that things didn't go the way that we had wanted them to, and we see how it was a blessing. Sometimes we're going through things right now and we can't see the other side of that. And that's also okay, right? We just allow ourselves to be in it and we just have faith and trust that there is something more beautiful on the other side of this. And that again, when we can have that perspective and when we can allow ourselves to really live, right, with that level of acceptance, right, with that level of knowing and trust that whatever is happening is really happening for us, not to us, right? That's when we are able to always hold on to or take our power back in those moments. The second we get lost in, why is this happening to me? This isn't fair, right? When we're in that victim mindset, right? It's so easy to spiral to a place of, more fear, more heartache, more suffering, right? And we're ultimately doing that to ourselves. And I say that with so much love and compassion because I know it's very just conditioned in our programming to act this way and to go through life this way. And again, I'm not saying that with any level of judgment. Again, it's just a matter of bringing awareness to that for yourself, bringing awareness to where have you given your own power away in your life, right? Where have you really stepped into your power when you're standing in your power, when you're stepping in that, when you're seeing that life is always working out for you. How does life show up in that way, right? What works out in your favor, right? What experiences do you attract when you believe that life is always working out for you? Right. So again, it's simple perspective shifts. And I say simple because in theory it is very simple. However, I do know that depending on your experiences and your life circumstances, right? Sometimes these layers and these programs and these conditions that we've been just trained to believe for so long take a little bit more healing, right? They take a little bit more uncovering and unpacking to get to that. But when you can find that place, it gets to be so much lighter and so much easier. And I always come back to that. And even for myself, I, have been reflecting on, I have an incredibly amazing and supportive husband. And I'm sure you have heard a little piece of my story that I'm sure I've shared at some point on this podcast, but I became a stay-at-home mom because of the pandemic. I had made a very courageous decision to quit my job to start an events business. and I quit my job 1 week before the pandemic started, right? So clearly, events, as we knew it, were completely shut down around the world, right? It was not a time whatsoever to start an events business, to even think about it, right? We had no end in sight of when the pandemic was going to be over. It wasn't even something I was could even remotely work on because it was just it would have been such a fruitless effort. Not to mention, I became a stay-at-home mom overnight, and I was dealing with lots of my own stuff, which ultimately led me to, my own deep transformational work, my own levels of self-mastery, my own personal development, which ultimately led me to become a coach. And even for me, I sometimes get stuck in this story of, well, of course, it's easy for me to say, follow your joy. Of course, it's easy for me to tell you to follow your intuition, right? I have a certain level of privilege that allows me to do that, right? I can find myself falling into that story. And the difference is now I can see it, right? And I can choose not to believe it because now I see that my story, right? Everything that has worked out for me up until this point is so that I can be here right now sharing this message with you, right? And if I was stuck in my own story of who am I to do this, right? The judgment I'm going to receive, right? Oh, again, it's so easy for me to do this. I have a very supportive husband and I'm able to build this business, right? It's not that easy for everyone. You can see how, had I gotten stuck in that story, or if I continued, or if I didn't know how to navigate that story, right, that I wouldn't be able to share this message. And I truly believe that it is my mission to share this work with any and every woman who wants to, right? Share the power of really listening to your own intuition, of coming back to your own truth, of living, in complete authenticity to who you are, to then attract any and everything that you want in your life, right? I believe that that's possible for you. All of the circumstances that I've had in my life has shown me that that's possible, right? The other women that I've coached, the some of my peers, right? The teachings and the principles and the things that I just so deeply believe in have all shown me not only is it possible, but it is how we are meant to live. It is a better way to live. It feels so good. Yet again, as a society, as a culture, we've been conditioned to think like, nope, you got to work really hard. You got to check the boxes. You got to do things this way, right? You got to fit in the box, and that's how you go through life. But I don't know about you, but that box is pretty freaking boring, right? I I don't want anyone to go through life and get to the end of their life thinking, oh my gosh, all I did was follow the rules. All I did was stay inside the box, right? Stay inside the box and check the boxes, right? Life can only be fully lived when you start to give yourself permission, when you start to trust yourself, when you get super clear on exactly what you want and you no longer tolerate anything less. That is when you start to manifest a life that you love. That is when you start to manifest the experiences and the people and the opportunities and the success and the financial abundance, whatever it may be for you. It starts with you, and it starts with you coming back to your own unique wisdom, your own inner wisdom that knows exactly what you want and knows how to get you there, right? So I can't live inside a box. I can't, even with my podcast or this YouTube channel or the way that I run my business, for too long, I was looking outside of myself for the strategy and how I should do things and how things should work. And how can I teach you and show you to trust yourself and do it your way when I'm not embodying that, right? So I quickly learned that not only did I not want to show up in that way because it didn't seem authentic. If I'm teaching you one thing, yet I'm constantly looking outside of myself for the answers, right? Like there's definitely, something that's not in integrity when I if I were to work in that way, but more so it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. Even this is my second episode on the YouTube channel. And even a few weeks ago, I remember searching something about, growing your YouTube channel. And I'm sure there's some truth and some things in that felt, applicable. But almost instantly I close the tab. I'm like, no, I just want to do it my way. I want to do it my way. I want to prove that when we follow our own intuition, when we do things that light us up, when we give ourselves permission and we follow that inner wisdom that we all have inside of us, that it works, right? Again, we have been conditioned as a society to believe that success should look a certain way, that our path to success should look a certain way, that our worth is validated, based on the success that we have and based on the path that we chose to get there. But it just doesn't serve anymore, right? It just doesn't matter. And now it's so beautiful because we truly are entering a time in history where we're okay to try something new, right? You keep seeing how people are willing to push the limits, and we want to experience the fullness of our own potential. We want to experience just what we're capable of. We want to feel the immense joy that comes, when we again give ourselves permission and we get those nudges and we take action and we're like, oh my gosh, that feels so good. I'm actually like doing the thing that lights me up and I want more of that, right? We become addicted to that and it feels so freaking good. And oh, hey, by the way, life is getting easier. I'm no longer stressed. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. And then there's the money, then there's the opportunities, there's all the things that I want to experience, right? It doesn't happen by again trying to fit into some box, trying to conform, right? We've been told for so long that we need to do it a certain way that we've lost touch. We've lost that connection to our own inner guidance. And it's only when we come back to that that we really get to experience the fullness and the aliveness that we want to feel, right? I know that it's so easy to say, I want more money because of freedom. I want more money because of these experiences that money can buy, etc. And yes, there may be some truth to that, but I promise you, if you are not allowing yourself to really feel the aliveness of living your purpose, like living connected to your truth, none of that matters, right? You're going to keep seeking that. You're not going to find the satisfaction that comes just in, having money and doing something. Yeah, like you might just keep doing it, right? There's tons of people out there who have shown us that, yeah, I'm just going to keep spending money. I'm just going to keep buying things. I'm going to just keep doing something outside of myself to give me that like aliveness that I feel, right? It feels we do get a little boost when we maybe purchase something fun and new for ourselves, right? We get a boost when we have a new experience, right? I'm not discounting those things, but the problem is when we're constantly seeking that inner feeling with the things, we're going to be constantly seeking. And what we really want is to again feel the aliveness that lives inside of us, right? That power that comes when again we get the idea, when we feel nudged in some direction. I'm like, oh, I'm going to just follow that. And oftentimes, I talk about really following your joy and really letting your intuition guide you in a way that feels good. And sometimes I think we get stuck on confusing the idea of if something feels uncomfortable or scary or uncertain, it must not be meant for me, right? But oftentimes, the greatest joys come from you stepping through the fear, you doing the very thing that feels so uncomfortable, doing the very thing that feels so uncertain, doing the very thing that like gives you butterflies in your stomach, but there's something on your heart where you're like, I know I need to do this. Maybe you keep coming back around to some idea. Maybe that idea seems completely illogical, but it keeps showing up. It's showing up for a reason. It's on your heart for a reason. And when you can, again, bravely, courageously, just take that leap, just do the thing, just jump off the ledge, right? And you just say yes. Oh my gosh, the level of joy and abundance and enthusiasm and aliveness that's on the other side of that, that is where the magic is, right? And the more you do that, the more you're showing yourself, okay, there's this thing that is on my heart, right? I have this desire on my heart. I'm giving myself permission to say yes to that. And I'm taking action, right? When we're taking action, we're showing ourselves that we're committing to ourselves and we're showing up for that commitment. We're building that self-trust muscle. And again, the more we do that, the more we grow, the more we expand, the more it becomes easier to do that, the more it's easier to show up in ways that previously felt hard, right? Our confidence grows, um, our self worth grows, our self love grows. And it's all through embracing those parts of you again, where it feels so scary, where it doesn't make logical sense, but you're like, I know I have to do this. When you say yes to that, again, everything starts to shift. And it's only when you really can get off the hamster wheel, right? Stop working in autopilot and stop just going through the motions of the day, and you slow down and you sit with yourself, and maybe you sit for 5 minutes in the morning and you do a meditation, or maybe it doesn't feel right for you to sit and do a meditation, right? The feminine, we want to like flow and move and feel the life force energy that lives inside of us, right? Maybe it's doing a little bit of a morning movement meditation. Maybe it's having a little dance party, right? Start doing that. Start to see what ideas come to fruition. Start to see the insights that you have. They're there for a reason. I promise. They're not there just because, right? It's not by accident. Allow yourself to explore what wants to come up. Allow yourself to explore what wants to be expressed through you. And even in those moments, you can connect to, okay, I'm getting this insight. Does this feel like a yes, I should take action? Does it feel like a heck no, that doesn't interest me? Sometimes, again, that fear wants to come up. So it feels like a heck no, but it's really fear speaking, right? Because again, the ego is, its job is to keep us safe, its job is to help us survive. But we no longer have, wild beasts chasing us, while we're running barefoot through the land, right? But we're still operating thinking that that is the case, right? Our body is still getting into action, feeling like, there's a threat because something that is new, something that's uncomfortable, something that we haven't done before, it feels scary. And our brain doesn't process like, okay, well, I'm not actually in danger. It's sending a chemical signal. And that chemical signal is saying, okay, there is a threat. What do I do here? Right. And that's when we either don't do anything, right? Our different bodies and, our different personalities react in different ways, but there's no longer that threat. So now it's really, okay, how can I regulate my nervous system around this? And there are a variety of ways in which you can do this, right? You can do breathing techniques. You can simply just, maybe you're the kind of person that's like, I'm just going to jump and take the leap and get into action and be like, oh, okay, I'm on the other side of that. It wasn't that bad, right? And again, the more you do it, the easier it gets. Sometimes these fears are deeply unconscious, and we really need to do the work to reprogram the subconscious mind so that you can get into action. And sometimes it's much simpler. Sometimes we're just like, you know what, I really don't feel like getting up at 5 and doing that workout, but today I'm just going to do it, right? Again, we all have our own unique experiences and, our own ways in which we're able to move through the day. This is not a one size fits all approach, but it's just, again, an invitation for you to see what feels good. Can you, when you think of doing something, say, you're starting to have this practice, you're having some intuitive hits, maybe you've already had the intuitive hits, maybe you already know, right? And I see this all the time with women that I work with where it's like they know what they want. They know what they want to do, but something has been holding them back and not really letting that like fully come up where they can say, yes, I want this for myself. I want to take action in this way. And again, being with that and just allowing yourself to take one small step, allowing yourself to trust that inner knowing, right? Allowing yourself to just see, again, what is the insight that comes up? When I know the thing that I want to do, how will I feel having done the thing, right? This is kind of when you can get a sense of if it's like a hell yes or a hell no. Because for me, following my intuition is really like following that hell yes, because I get a lot of ideas. I could technically easily go in lots of different directions. Some of those things naturally fizzle out. Some of those things I give them thought for a couple of days. I'm like, okay, no, that's not really what I want to do. But having done the thing, how will you feel, right? Something like a workout, right? Yes, maybe getting up at 5 and doing that workout right now feels so exhausting. And it's like, but once you do the workout and you start your day that way, it feels so good, right? So that's when you start to know, okay, this is a hell yes, but it's simply the resistance that's coming up. It's the resistance coming up around the thing because I don't want to do it for whatever reason, right? Either it feels scary, it feels uncomfortable. It's, all these different things that show up for us. So you can start to play around with this and just see, how can I follow this more? How can I trust myself? What's coming up for me? And the more you do this, just the easier it gets, the easier everything gets. And you really start to just see like, oh my gosh, I am actually capable of this. I was the one holding myself back this whole time, right? I had bought into all of these stories and judgments and beliefs about why I can't do something. But what's the story you want to write? At the end of your life, what is the story you want to write? Right? Maybe it's I lived vibrantly. Maybe it's I impacted a beautiful community of women to, you know, empower themselves and change their lives for the better. Right? Maybe it's I loved deeply and unconditionally myself and others, right? Start there, make it so simple. When I talk about clarity, I'm not always talking about you needing to have everything figured out every step of the way. Just start with what feels good for you. Start with what feels true to you, right? Then give yourself permission to say, yes, I'm worthy of this. Yes, I want this. Yes, this is available for me, right? Because what is available for you is beyond your wildest imagination. But when you're stuck in the limited story of this is what seems possible for me right now, you're limiting yourself, right? You have to think bigger. You have to know that everything is possible. And the more you allow yourself to grow and expand, it starts to illuminate all of the other opportunities, all of the other possibilities, the infiniteness like of your potential, right? The infinite abundance, the infinite love, right? All of it. And again, then you have to take action. You have to take action. As you're taking action, notice, is there resistance coming up? If there's resistance coming up, that's where you start the work, right? And sometimes the work is deep healing that needs to happen. Sometimes the work, like I said earlier, is simply this doesn't make sense, but it feels right. And I'm going to take the leap, right? We're all at different stages in our journey. Even, for me, when things come up, some things require a lot more deconditioning on my part, a lot more unpacking some of these stories and the layers and the beliefs. Some things I can move through relatively quickly. Some things I can, you know, even though they feel scary, even though maybe they don't logically make sense, there's something in me. And if it, if the thread, right, if the subconscious isn't playing out like a really deep pattern, then I can move through that really quickly. And this is the most beautiful thing. The more you move through that, the more you trust yourself, the more you take action, the more you show yourself what you're capable of, the easier it gets. And then you're like, oh, I can move on to the next thing. And that wasn't so bad. And now what I'm doing, right? Now I'm writing books and speaking on stages or whatever that looks like for you, just playing around and having fun. But the possibilities truly are limitless, just as you are. And that's when you start to manifest all of the things that you want, right? Doesn't mean that life isn't going to happen. Doesn't mean there aren't still going to be times that are really hard and really challenging and really going to push us in ways that we maybe didn't want to be pushed. But again, when we can look at it through the lens of how does this want me to grow and expand? Who does this want me to step in? How is this helping me step into this next version of myself? Right? Where can I accept life and meet life and honor myself exactly as I am right now, exactly where I am, right? When we can embrace all of that. Again, this is not from like a spiritual bypassing way. This is not from a place of everything's going to be fine all the time. I'm just going to pretend to be happy. I don't mean that whatsoever, right? I mean, like, feel it, be in it, embrace the stuckness, embrace the sadness, embrace the grief, right? Don't try to change it, just accept it for what it is, right? That is when you grow. That is when you expand. That is when you experience then the immense joy or the immense gratitude or whatever that polarity of that negative emotion is that you feel on the other side. And that's what it's about, right? Because we can't control life. When we try to control life, it never works, right? We keep thinking that if I overthink this, if I overanalyze this, if I think of all the ways in which this could or could not work out, it doesn't work. That's not how we want to feel. Truly, I want you to think back to times in your life where you felt the most alive, where you felt the most enthusiastic, when you felt the most joyful. Ultimately, it's when we feel the most alive, right? It's ultimately when we feel the most connected to our purpose. And again, I'm not saying purpose from a vocational standpoint. I mean, really living, right? Connected to our highest self, really just allowing to live life in a way that we feel called to live it, right? Allowing ourselves to be in flow. That feels so good. And that really is where everything gets easier, right? It gets to be so much more fun. I got fed a video on Instagram and I wish I would have saved it and remembered this, but this was yesterday. And it was a video of a little girl, probably about 6 years old, beautifully playing the piano, no sheet music, just composing her own music right there on the spot. And her mom was sharing how she taught her daughter to play the piano in a way that really is dependent or reliant on her own ability to just hear what sounds good for her, right? Like really kind of free thinking. There was a word for it. I apologize. I am not musically inclined. I don't remember what it is. And it was really just to show what you're capable of when you stop following all the rules. Right. And it was so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Again, she's 6 years old. She is, she's like, I just didn't teach her in the standard way of like, this is how music should sound. This is how music should be written, letting her do what she wants to do, letting whatever wants to pour through her. And that's what I want for you. Right. That is what feels so good when you throw out the rules, right? When you get outside of the box, when you say, what feels good to me? How am I meant to live this life? What is no longer serving me? Right? How have I been choosing my own suffering? How have I been the source of my own suffering? How have I not been choosing to stand in my own power? How have I not been connected to that? Right? How have I not seen that the universe is always working out for me, that life is always working out for me? Right? When you can open yourself up to truly being in the flow of life, truly following what lights you up, truly being open to this may not work out how I think it's going to work out, but something's telling me I need to do it this way, right? That has to be one of the most magical experiences you can give yourself, right? And there's so much fear there, right? There's again that deep conditioning. If I do it my way, what if it doesn't work out, right? I've been conditioned to believe I have to climb the corporate ladder in this way. I've been conditioned to believe that success looks a certain way. I've been conditioned to believe that um, my path to financial wealth looks a certain way, whatever that may be for you, right? We've been conditioned to believe these things. And oh my gosh, if you throw out the rules, what if it doesn't work out, right? And that can feel really freaking scary. And it takes a lot of self trust. It takes, again, that connection to something so much bigger than you, right? And knowing that through that connection, it's all one, right? You're never separate from that. So how could it not work out? How could it not work out for you if you are operating in connection with, the oneness of all things, right? Trusting yourself, trusting life, going with the flow of life, going with the flow of your energy, resting when you need to rest, knowing that when you give yourself permission to rest, you come back like 5 times more enlivened, ready to go, right? With the downloads and the insights and ready to just tackle everything and the productivity that comes with that, the flow, right? What do you need to let go of to start doing things your way in a way that feels really good to you? Right? Start super small. You don't have to disrupt and dismantle your entire life, right? That can feel really scary. That would feel really scary for me too, right? To be completely honest, I couldn't just do that. But start small. What are you not giving yourself permission to do? What's on your heart, right? What's one small thing you can do today? Right. And then what's another small thing you can do tomorrow? Keep following the nudges, keep following what feels good. Do the thing that feels scary when you know there's something better on the other side of that fear. This is when everything shifts, right? This is it. This is the work, right? It's like, how do we come home to ourselves? How do we come home to our own power? How do we come home to our soul's purpose, right? Our gifts, the legacy that we're meant to leave on this world, right? That can't happen inside the box. It can't happen when you're living by everyone else's rules. And I just really want to encourage you today to start to prioritize your own joy. Start to prioritize listening to yourself, right? Your body knows. We've forgotten, right? We've forgotten because we've been told for so long, and our ancestors were told for so long, and they're, generations back, right? It's in our cells to one, be connected, but to also like fear, right? Fear connecting, fear, the power that we hold, to fear the freedom that's available for us. And that's what we all want, right? We want that freedom. We want to live life fully, on living it our way, doing things our way, paving our own path, right? Trying it out. That's what feels so freaking good. So, as always, I would love to hear from you. Leave me a note in the comments, shoot me a message on Instagram if you follow me at the Jess Hook. But again, I'd love to hear your insights. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if there is something that you want me to dive deeper in to on here, let me know. If there's something that you want me to talk about, I really want this to be in service of you, right? I know what you're capable of. I know what's available to each and every one of you. And I truly feel like it's my mission to support all of you in living as your highest self, right? Really stepping into your highest potential. So keep me posted, reach out, say hi. I love to hear from you. And I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll see you next time.